Hey guys, Singing here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to be jumping in and doing another top 10 tier list for the EZA TUR'S. Obviously we have had two new outstanding additions to the collection, which has changed the list up a little bit. I have made some minor changes from the last list as well. Because one of the things I always say in my tier lists, and you guys know what's coming because I say it every time, but it's always the best sort of responses to these lists where people actually watch the video, listen to the reasons behind the placements, and then put some interesting arguments in the comments, right? Like if you disagree with any of the placements of these units, do let me know why you think so. And then we can have some discussions, and like some of those comments and back and forths have led to me changing my mind and switching units around in like future lists. But the example I always give is when someone types a comment that's just like lol, like you think this unit's better than this unit, it's like, yes, I do. I explained why I think that in the video. Like, if you don't think so, then try and actually give me a reason why. And if it's a good reason, I might agree with you and change my mind. But crazy how that works, right? But we're going to do the tier list now. As I always say, it's based on my own experiences, my experience with the unit. If a unit is very heavily RNG related and like revolves around, you know, doing certain things related to RNG, you got to remember that those units will probably always be differently rated by people, because it's one of those things. If a unit can be the best unit in the game, if the RNG goes your way, but then if the RNG doesn't go your way, they're just kind of mid. Like for me, I find it really difficult to put that unit at like #1 on a tier list, right? So I do value consistency. Sometimes, you know, there'll be the odd exception. Like I'm a big fan of the Tech Majin Vegeta, and of course his condition can be a bit annoying, and in his base he's not particularly great. But we're going to talk about these units as they come, right? So top 10 EZA TURs, including Super EZAs on the list. And we're just going to go ahead and jump right in here. So at number 10, we have Super EZA Physical Full Power Frieza. Now, the funny thing is, this guy really is only at number 10 for me, making concessions after some of the discussions we had from like the previous list. People keep telling me that I underrate this Full Power Frieza, but like, I don't know if it is just me. Maybe I haven't used him enough. Like, you guys can tell me what you think is his best team to make him look as good as some of these, like, people keep telling me that he is. But I really don't think he's that great. Like, he's obviously, he can be good. I'm trying, not trying to say he's bad, obviously, but his kit seems to be like, he's designed to be a slot 1 unit, but he doesn't really have great start of turn defense, and he loses damage reduction as the fight goes on, which means he's not very good in slot 1 after the first few turns. If you put him in slot 2, then obviously he's getting extra stats and doing extra attacks. Like, he can do a lot of damage for sure. He's no slouch when it comes to putting out some numbers, but like that to me is kind of all that he is. And with Wicked Bloodline being a team that's kind of in the mud right now, teams like Terrifying Conquerors, Inhuman Deed, Space Traveling Warriors, Planetary Destruction, like these teams have so many top tier units at the moment. Like he could end up getting onto some of those teams as like a 3rd slot floating unit and still put out some really good performance, but to me that doesn't make him like an insanely great unit, right? So I don't know what it is that I'm supposedly missing. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you think this guy should be much higher than being at number 10 in the top 10 EZAs, like do let me know why, because for me personally I just don't see it. But I mean, I could have even potentially gone as far as to put one of the other EZAs I put on the list last time, because we've had obviously 2 new additions with Goku and Kid Buu. This guy, I could probably make some arguments why I think the units that I would put at 11 and 12 could maybe even be better than him, like Kefla, Super Saiyan 3 EZA Gotenks. But I've got this guy at number 10. I know he can be good. I know people would be furious if he wasn't on the list at all, so my minor concession is putting him at number 10. And if you think he should be higher, let me know down below why that is. So at number 9, we have the STR Super EZA for Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. Now, This guy, I don't know if it's just because I do like him on teams with a little bit of support. I like support units that can provide themselves that bit of defense, right? He gets the damage reduction build up with each super. He creates the rainbow orbs, which then gives everyone extra stats. If you can get lucky and get the 4 rainbow orbs, obviously he gets 2 additional supers, which means he can build up pretty quickly and do some decent damage. Like if you compare him directly to full power Frieza, there are certain situations, especially after getting off a few super attacks, where he will tank better than Frieza. He's probably not going to put out better than damage than him, although it does depend on the additionals, because again, if you get 4 rainbow orbs, he's doing 3 supers, potentially 4 with the hidden potential. He can do some relatively good damage. He has the attack race for 3 turns, which means you can get multiple stacks of that. So Broly is very good. Now, the only reason I don't put him any higher than this really is because he can be useful in some of these extreme teams as a support unit, but he does suffer that issue that Broly units have when it comes to melding with extreme teams, where obviously he doesn't have big bad bosses. He has like Saiyan links, so he's not necessarily the best when it comes to throwing on an extreme team as a support unit. He obviously does require a planetary destruction or pure Saiyan ally, so on extreme teams you're really looking at planetary destruction, but there's a few of those that he works. And of course, you know, with the actual Broly team itself, he can be a very, very good option to be there for a flowing support unit. So I think he is very, very good. But for example, above him at number 8, we have STR Bojack, because Bojack is kind of doing the same thing, right? Like he's providing a decent amount of support. You could argue that he's not as good defensively. In terms of raw defense, he can still be pretty good. And obviously, if you have 5 Space Traveling Warriors or Inhuman Deeds allies, he has guard. But he doesn't have damage reduction. Damage output wise, I think he probably does less, especially because he can't get as many additionals. But he does have links like Big Bad Bosses, Thirst for Conquest, obviously Fierce Battle. Like Thirst for Conquest and Big Bad Bosses, realistically, actually, to be fair, with links like Hera Clan, Galactic Warriors, Coward, he's not exactly got the top tier villain link set, but he does have Big Bad Bosses, and that can make a huge difference, right? Sometimes it might, I mean, I guess I was going to say sometimes it might not seem like it, but I think we all know 25% attack and defense, like that's a significant buff for Big Bad Bosses. But it really does make a difference. Like I've been doing a lot of runs recently on stream where we've been doing the Heroes versus Frieza, Goku and Frieza attempts. And like the difference between how much damage a unit like, let's say, Mechikabra, who kind of relies on raw defense from picking up orbs, he can get a little bit of damage reduction from rainbows, but the massive difference in damage that he takes if he has Big Bad Bosses active, like if he's next to Fu or Demigra, than if he isn't, is hugely noticeable. So I think because of Big Bad Bosses and some of the categories and stuff like that, I would argue that Bojack is better than Broly. Of course, we didn't talk about the fact that he can transform and then becomes an all-out damage dealer who just has guaranteed guard. So transformed Bojack, I would say, is easily better than the Z Broly, but obviously he doesn't start as the transformed Bojack. But I think overall he is still better. So he comes into the list at number 8. At number 7, we have Ultimate Gohan. Ultimate Gohan is really, really good. I feel like he's really underrated, but in terms of the Super EZAs, he's really high up that list. Like when I made the Super EZA tier list, I think I had Broly above him until literally mid-video when I was explaining what I value about these units, and then I think I ended up switching them at the end anyway. But Gohan is really, really good. Like he provides a ton of support, especially if there's an extreme class enemy. He builds up dodge, but he ends up getting to, is like 70% chance to dodge, right, once he's fully built up. And then he also has guard. So even if he doesn't dodge, he ends up getting to numbers that are like well over 1 million defense with guard, which for a support unit is really, really good. And then obviously when we're backing that up with a 70% chance to dodge, then, you know, there are times where he just doesn't get touched. And he can definitely be very, very good. He also has the really useful and I feel like underrated option of the getting the extra key when key is 7 or more, which means in any situations where, because all my Gohans, especially the early ones in the game, didn't have the best links, especially when it came to other Saiyan or Hybrid Saiyan teams and stuff like that, right? So of any situations where he's not going to have like shocking speed active, or even things, I know that it's niche, but like you know, burst mode, the Bulma stage. I think Gohan in one of the blue Super Saiyan 2, like Kid Gohan in the blue zone does it. Any events where you get your ki lowered by the enemy, Gohan only has to get to 7 ki and then he gets 12 ki. So obviously that's a minor thing. That's not like the reason he's above other units, but I think that's a nice little bit of icing on the cake there for Gohan. So Gohan comes in at number 7. You could probably make some arguments that maybe, like, I guess, transformed Bojack. He probably, well, does he put out more damage? Because you infinitely stack. I think I'm happy with him there, right, at number 7. So at number 6, we have the Super Saiyan 2 Angel Goku. Now, I think I might maybe underrated him last time just because of, I feel like there is a big difference between him and Vegeta. Like, Vegeta is not the next unit on the list, right? So I feel like there is a big gap between him and Vegeta, but I think I was so, like, surprised when they first dropped and I was first trying them out and I made the last tier list of that difference that maybe I put too big of a gap between them, because I have recently used this guy a little bit more, and obviously his 70% chance to dodge, even in his base form, is obviously very, very good. And then, of course, once he transforms into the Super Saiyan 3, he can get up to like 80% chance to dodge. I don't think he's as good as Majin Vegeta. Majin Vegeta is better offensively and defensively. So I mentioned this in the last video, where I feel like it's weird that they did it like that, whereas they didn't just make one of them really, really good at one thing, like really good defensively and then decent offensively, and then make the other unit like the other way around, right? Because Goku, because his attack boost is based on your HP, you can start off the turn on 4 HP and he's only doing sort of like 18 million. I say only, right? But he's doing like 15 to 18 million attack. But on the same turn, Vegeta will be doing like 30. And then whilst you're on higher HP, he does get more base defense, but his base defense isn't really enough to be tanking anything. He's kind of relying on the dodge, right? Whereas the Vegeta has the guard, has damage reduction. He's definitely very good, but like, especially with like some of the Super Saiyan 3 Gokus we have in the game now, right? The AGL Angel, STR Dragon Fist, the new physical Super Saiyan 2 one, the EZA'd. Like, this guy, definitely not the best Super Saiyan 3 Goku for sure, but I think I'm perfectly happy with him here at the list at number 6. And at number 5, we have the physical Goten and Trunks. Now, these guys, you could probably make some arguments that they could be higher. They are very, very good. But the one thing about them is they don't have the splash ability that some of these other units have. You can't just throw them on any team, right? Because one of the big things for them defensively is they get 30% damage reduction when all allies in the same turn are Kamehameha characters. So obviously, depending on what kind of team build you're using, because it's really nice they've been added to Majin Buu Saga, and a lot of those characters do have the Kamehameha category, but I kind of feel like, even though they can still be good offensively, I feel like I'm not putting them on a team build where they're not going to have Kamehameha characters on every rotation. And so then when you start throwing in units like the Vegeta or the physical Angel Vegeta and some of these other characters that aren't on Kamehameha, it makes it a bit more tricky to run them on the team. Which isn't to say that they're not good, and that shouldn't like knock them multiple spots down the list. It's just more so the fact that other characters above them on this list are doing similar or better performance as them, but whilst not having that same restriction, right? And obviously, like, their unit super attack, even though we got the Tech Goten EZA recently as well, he's not like a crazy guy. He's not like a top number 1 pick for the base team for like Majin Buu Saga. So I find a lot of the time, if you are throwing them on the team, you're not getting their unit super, which is a really good effect, right? It raises allies' attack and defense 30% for 2 turns, which is awesome. It's just really difficult to get on like a solid meta-relevant team for, like, let's say Goku and Frieza, right? Like Tech Goten can be a massive liability. It can be done with the event with him on the team. I've seen screenshots, but he can definitely be a liability on that team for sure. So these guys, I mean, number 5, middle of the list-ish, I guess the top middle. They're not, I don't think I would say I'm underrating them. I think they are really, really good. Just that restriction does annoy me a little bit to get their full potential, both with the damage reduction and the unit super, and just the units above them on the list don't have that same issue, right? So then we get to the number 4, and I think this is where people are going to start going crazy. I think this will be the first instance on the list where there'll be a revolt. And at number 4, we have Super Saiyan 2 Physical Goku. Now, obviously, there are people out there that will see this and are already angrily typing in the comments that he's actually the best and number 4 is way too low. But it really does come down to his transformation condition. I posted on like Twitter the day he got his EZA. I went to record his showcase and I played all the way through an event, like a Blue Zone stage. I think it was the Family Kamehameha one. All the way through to the end and beat the event, and he didn't transform. So I stopped the video. I was like, right, I'll just get to a point where I can get him to transform, and then I'll start recording again, and we'll throw this in as like the next bit of the video. So I then went into this event again, purposely tried to take risks early on by putting like weaker units in slot 1, and still played all the way through to the end of the event without transforming him. And it was then on the next attempt, I think I put him in slot 1 on turn 1, and there was attacks from like Videl, Trunks and Goten all in slot 1, and I think all 3, no, I think 2 of them supered, because Videl always supers but she's in, and I think Goten supered, and he's STR but Goku has guard. So I basically went down to about 10% HP and then just had to survive through the next rotation, and then we got the transformation for Goku. So his transformation condition can be really, really annoying. And then when you get his transformation condition, he either hits like an absolute runaway freight train with no brakes, or he does a super attack and then 2 additional normals, which is really annoying because when he transforms, he builds up dodge chance and damage reduction with each super attack performed. So it's not each attack. So if he does a super, 2 additional normals, and then you get like a hidden potential additional normal, he's had 1 of those stacks build up. And then he does get the extra stack of the same thing with each turn passed as well, which is good. Now, the thing is, I don't want to draw too much away from him. Like, I've started off talking about his placement with a bunch of the negatives, but that's because I know people will see this and instantly think that he's too low. But, like, this is what I tried to say at the very beginning. On his craziest turns, like I've seen turns where he's on a rotation with multiple supports. There was like a support from the previous turn. I think it was like Bulma with the 5 orbs or something like that. And he's hitting like 80 million and he did 4 supers. And the last one was like 110, which is, you know, insane. Absolute giga buffed, potentially unrealistically. Not sure how that would work in the most difficult events. But like on his best turns, he can absolutely look like the best unit in the game. But you have to get him to transform, and then he has to actually perform that way and not just do a bunch of additional normal attacks. And it's funny because I know it's a big meme in the community. It's not something to actually get annoyed about, but people will say like, oh yeah, skill issue. But it's like, bro, it's RNG. I can't do anything. I just let the game do what it does and flip those coins. And apparently it's heads you get a super, tails you get a normal, and then the game just goes tails, tails, tails. There you go. Enjoy your 3 normal attacks. Which is very disappointing, and it's just one of those things for me personally, and other people can be different, and that's fine. I don't begrudge people having that different way of looking at it, but for me, a unit that requires the right RNG to be number 1 on the list, but if you don't get the right RNG, other units will look better than them fairly consistently, then for me, I'm not putting that unit at number 1 on the list. So it's up to you guys to let me know what you think. Obviously, the big controversy not only is that he is at number 4, but that Majin Vegeta is at number 3, who's obviously a step above him. And I know people are immediately going to jump on his transformation condition. However, I think his condition is a lot easier to manage because his condition is based on the enemy's HP. I have not had anywhere near as much trouble transforming with this guy into Majin Vegeta as I have with transforming the base Goku, or Super Saiyan 2 Goku. And that's because it revolves around the enemy's HP. So the only time that can be really annoying is obviously if you've got like a situation with the Goku and Frieza event where 17 is locking units in certain slots and you can't play your rotations the way you want. But usually you are able to at least somewhat plan how the rotations are going to go, who's attacking where. Obviously you can't account for things like multiple additional supers and crits, even though you can factor in their potential. Whereas the thing with Goku and these transformation conditions that are revolving around your HP is that it's almost like a suffering from success like meme thing, right? Where you're basically punished for doing too well. Because if you don't lose 23% HP, you don't get to transform. Whereas with Majin Vegeta, if you're doing really, really well and you don't lose any HP, like everyone's taking double digits, tanks are tanking supers for like 50k or less, or dodging them or countering them or whatever, then this guy can still transform because his transformation condition is based on the HP of the enemy. And whilst, yes, there can still be issues, which is why with this new list, I don't have this guy at number 1. Like I say, for me, in my personal experience, I have transformed with Tech Vegeta more consistently than I've transformed with Goku. And then once you transform with Majin Vegeta, he doesn't need RNG, right? He tanks basically every attack in the game because his defense can be so high with the damage reduction, as long as you're getting the 6 orbs. But he's a rainbow orb changer, so getting the 6 orbs with him is relatively easy. And he's also putting out like 30 odd million attack. And on a turn with the Super Saiyan 3 physical Goku that isn't like giga juiced with support, he's putting out about 30 million as well. So on a turn where this guy does a super and then 2 additional normals, Majin Vegeta does more damage than him as well. Now, obviously, again, like on Goku's better turns, even if you get slightly better RNG, he's going to do more damage than Vegeta. But Vegeta is consistently better defensively, and he has attacks effective against all types, which is helpful, and can do similar attack stats in terms of the initial supers, as long as, you know, again, rotation's not absolutely drowning in support. But yeah, I mean, you could argue, and the thing is, I say this on tier lists all the time, if you want to swap around 2 units who are next to each other, I mean, I don't see a huge issue. It's hard to put these guys in exact placements. If you think Goku's better than Majin Vegeta because, you know, every time you use Goku, he transforms and he does 4 supers. Every time you use Vegeta, he doesn't transform. Then fair enough. But from my experience, this guy is very difficult to transform consistently, whereas Vegeta has not been for me. And it's just personal preference at the end of the day, I guess. So Majin Vegeta is at number 3. At number 2, we have Tech Beerus. Now, last time I made my list, I did put Vegeta above Beerus. Beerus is kind of a big meme in the community at the moment, where it feels like he gets super overrated and underrated at the same time. Like, I feel like if you have him any lower than 3, he's being massively underrated. But I think if you say that he's number 1 hands down and no one else is close, then he's being massively overrated. So he's a very weird unit when it comes to how to accurately place, like, where he should be on these lists, or how fairly he should be rated, because he is really, really good. His big thing over the Tech Vegeta is that he can slot 1 tank, which Tech Vegeta cannot. And the thing is, he can be thrown into a bunch of these different teams. As long as you've got a movie boss, Realm of Gods, or Exploding Rage character on rotation with him, then he has guard and his extra defense. He can tank supers. He can put out some pretty good damage. He doesn't have any kind of built-in additional, which I think is a bit annoying, because a lot of the time for me when I use him, he does like the one big, like decent, like attack stat number super, and then that's it for the turn. But he does also have the rage mode, which is like a team protection ability, which can be very, very useful. Now, it is reliant on 60% or less HP, but that's not that bad of a condition to get to. I mean, it's worse than the Super Saiyan 2 Angel Goku transformation, right, the physical one. But if this guy gets his rage mode and he can use it 2 times, that allows you to negate an enemy super attack, which can be huge. And one of the big things as well is that he can use his rage mode twice. So in terms of, like, if you really want perfect timing, like perfect setup, if you have his rage mode, let's say if we're talking Goku and Frieza event, you have his rage mode on the final turn of Frieza and 17, and you kill Frieza and 17 with Beerus. You go into the next rotation, and you're still on this rotation with Beerus, and then because you're still below 60% HP, he transforms again, and he rage modes straight away because he can rage mode twice. It doesn't. No other characters do that because it's not a separate fight, but that's because they can't use theirs twice. So his activates straight away, which is really, really good. So the team protection ability is definitely not something to be underrated. Beerus is incredibly good. The only thing I would say where he is lacking is damage compared to some of these other units around him, but he makes up for it pretty well with how strong he is defensively. We really need like a new Dokkan Fest Whis, and then these two together could be absolutely insane, especially if you think if Whis is like a crazy support unit who is also kind of good defensively, these guys could go together. Beerus in slot 1 with all that massive support and links from him would be crazy. But yeah, Beerus is very, very good. So Beerus is at 2. I mean, I could still see arguments. Like, I mean, I made that original list where Vegeta was higher, and everything I said in that video, it's not like I've completely changed my mind. So I could see arguments for Vegeta being higher, but I've put Beerus at number 2 this time around. And so no surprise then, I'm sure, who's left at number 1. We have STR Kid Buu. STR Kid Buu is insane. I cannot stress enough how ridiculously good he is when it comes to like EZA units. If you want to argue for like the TURs who could be close enough to be argued the best units in the game, like not even LR, even comparing them to LRs, the top 2 that come to mind are Glorio and Kid Buu. And funnily enough, Kid Buu can go on Glorio's team and reap all the benefits of that ridiculous amount of support and the 200% leader skill. Kid Buu is absolutely insane. Start of turn 1, he has like 500k defense and 70% damage reduction. So, I mean, against, you know, Janemba or Gogeta, he can still take some big damage in slot 1. Well, actually, I don't remember if... Does Janemba have a... No, he doesn't have an unarmed super. He guaranteed nullifies unarmed supers for 3 turns. So, any anniversary content we get where the boss has an unarmed super attack, that's going to be fun. And in this meta, with Goku and Frieza being the toughest event, by the time you get to Goku and Frieza, the guaranteed nullification has worn off, but he still has a 70% chance, and he can nullify Goku and Frieza's super attack. And then whilst he can't nullify the super attack of the Frieza in 17, he has type advantage over them. So this guy's crazy. Once he's attacked 4 times, he gets fully built up with his stats. As long as you've got Majin Power or Majin Buu Saga characters on the team, he has the extra damage reduction. It doesn't say self-excluded, so you literally only need him and 2 other Majin Power or Majin Buu Saga allies. And considering how cracked that category is now, the Buu Saga, it's very easy to do that. You're going to want to run him with units like Tech Buuhan, or like physical LR Buu tanks, who obviously transforms into Buuhan, especially because you want that big bad bosses active. So it's not a super difficult condition to meet. And then obviously before he receives an attack 6 times, he gets a bunch of extra buffs as well. You can choose to play, depending on how it goes, carefully and have him not take hits early on. I actually did a run of Goku and Frieza where I think he got locked against 17 in slot 2 where there were no attacks. So by the time we got to Goku and Frieza, he'd only been hit 5 times. So then in slot 1 against them, he's got a 70% chance to nullify their super. And if he doesn't, by the time he's fully built up, he's starting off the turn with like, I think it's around 1.4 million defense. And because he hasn't been hit 6 times, he still has 70% damage reduction. And you got to remember that Goku and Frieza, like before they drop to 50% or less HP, they have a super attack that does 2.8 million damage. So once you take 70% off of that, we're talking 840k, but Kid Buu's starting the turn with over 1 million defense. So if the 70% chance to nullify doesn't go off, he just takes double-digit damage anyway, which is kind of crazy. Now, obviously, once you get to the next rotation around for Kid Buu, and they've been hit and dropped below 50% HP, they get double the attack power. So we're talking like 5.6 million damage that they do. And he probably doesn't have the 70% damage reduction at that point, right? Because he's going to have been hit 6 times. So he would still have 50% damage reduction, but that's dropping it back down to basically what it started at, right? At 2.8. So he would die to their super if they're below 50% HP, but he still has a 70% chance to negate it. So like I said, if we get any anniversary difficult content with an unarmed super as the main boss, Kid Buu's absolutely going to eat that up. And then he has the active skill. Once you do get hit 6 times, or you have a Buu Saga enemy, gives him a permanent 20% buff, which might not seem like a lot, but it is multiplicative. So the numbers can jump up quite significantly. And bearing in mind that with the anniversary, a lot of people are expecting fusions. We could definitely see a new Super Vegito. If that is the case, we will probably get a versus Super Vegito Blue Zone or something similar, which then means that we'll have a Blue Zone boss who is a Majin Buu Saga enemy. So Kid Buu is poised to not only be... I mean, he destroys everything in the game right now, but is poised to still be able to destroy the anniversary content depending on the level of power creep that we see. But we'd have to see some extreme power creep in order for this guy to... not be useful in the 10th anniversary content, right? And the thing is, he's got a decent link set, so with other extreme characters, brutal beatdown, big bad bosses, sometimes regeneration. I guess infinite regeneration is not as common. The wall standing tool, there are a couple of characters that do have that as well. I think, does Bojack have that? But like, he does want the Majin Power or Majin Buu Saga allies on the team. They only have to be on the team, so they don't have to be on the rotation with him. You could have superclass Buu Saga units on one rotation, this guy with someone else on the other rotation, and still have that part of his passive active. So Kid Buu is absolutely nuts. I think he is the best EZA. He is probably the best TUR in the game, other than arguably Glorio. I don't know who I would say is better out of the two. I think maybe Glorio, just with the amount of support that he provides, and obviously the fact that even at 55% he can do so many supers in one turn that he's getting up to like over 30 mil. I've had Kid Buu on turns doing like 50 mil. Now, he also has a built-in additional that could just be a normal, like Goku, but he builds up his passive by doing any attack. So if you get in a turn with him where he does a super, an additional normal, and then potentially just does an additional normal from the hidden potential, he still gets 3 stacks of his build up, whereas Goku would only get 1 because he only builds up from super attacks. So I think Kid Buu is better than Goku, because even though on Goku's best turn, he could probably put out more, well, he can put out more damage than Kid Buu, absolutely. And then could potentially just dodge if he's fully built up. Whereas Kid Buu is consistently putting out big damage, has really big defense with damage reduction. I think Kid Buu is better. I think he's the best EZA TUR, and probably has arguments for being the best TUR in the game. Maybe you could even push being the best unit in the game, but I don't know. Is the best LR in the game better than Kid Buu? Who is the best LR in the game right now? I think when I last did my list, I still said Beast, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. So Kid Buu's at number 1. If we look at the tier list in reverse order here with all of the characters on there, 10 is physical full power Frieza, 9 is STR Broly, 8 STR Bojack, 7 in Ultimate Gohan, 6 in Super Saiyan 2 Angel Goku, 5 Goten and Trunks, 4 the physical Super Saiyan 2 to Super Saiyan 3 Goku, 3 Tech Super Saiyan 2 to Majin Vegeta, 2 Tech Beerus, and number 1 is STR Kid Buu. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I said at the beginning, if you disagree with any of the placements, do let me know why in the comment section. Give some actual reasons and we can discuss, and who knows, maybe I'll change my mind for the next list. And if you want to give me your list of what your full top 10 would look like, maybe you only have 1 or 2 you want to switch around, just let me know all of that stuff down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.